I love these sweet little copper golems that were added to Minecraft lately, but I think they can do more. Hey y'all, I'm the Southern Man, but all my friends call me Tasoma. When Minecraft added copper golems to the game, it revolutionized my personal storage system. I can't stop trying new configurations of using the copper golems to sort my stuff without any redstone or complicated contraptions. However, I've really been inspired by other creators who are using the copper golems not for their function, but just for fun, adding life and movement to their bases. In all of these examples that I want to share with you, the golems won't be doing any real work. They'll just be adding whimsy to our world. Now, these are just going to be simple, bare bones builds, nothing fancy. It's more to inspire you to use the copper golems in a fun way. Let's dive into Minecraft and see these copper golems hard at not work. Let's begin with a brief tutorial on how to create a copper golem in the first place. A copper golem springs to life when you shear a pumpkin on top of a copper block. You then create the copper golem along with its associated chest. Now this works horizontally as well as vertically, and you can even use the already carved pumpkin or even a jack-o'-lantern. All of these methods will create your very own copper golem. I've already used some name tags on an anvil to pre-make some name tags with special names for our fantastic little friends. Jen for genius, Bree for brilliant, Int for intelligent, and Smart has already turned into a statue. Well, we can fix that by scraping off that oxidation. Excuse me. And getting them back to working condition. However, it will take a while for them to oxidize all the way back down to their original color. But here you go. Thank you. Now, we can go ahead and wax them to keep them in these oxidation levels if we like. So there we go. Even if you use a waxed copper block, they will not be waxed when you create them. So you'll have to have some wax ready. Now, as you can see, each of the golems is checking the copper chests for items. They do not care what their original chest was or what the different oxidation states are. They are checking every copper chest in their vicinity. Now, the copper golems will not interact with any other storage items, so they won't try to open barrels or shulkers or pots, just copper chests. And then once they have an item, they'll start looking for regular chests. So let's give them something to do. Here are some blocks. Let's put them inside our copper chest. Now you can see they've already started grabbing them out. And they're looking in the regular chest to find a match. And if they find a match with something that is already in the chest, they will put the same item inside. If it doesn't match a preloaded item, they will continue checking chests. For example, this intelligent golem has dark oak planks. And so far, no chest includes that. However, this last chest is empty. So those planks can go in there. And they will continue to search through the chests and put away everything in the pre-filtered chest, completing the efficient sorting job that they were designed for. Now, this is the intended function of the copper golem, sorting your storage out for you. So for the rest of this video, we're not going to do that at all. We're only going to try activities that use the copper golem for fun rather than function. These little copper golems are carrying wheat and shears as if they're caring for the sheep in these pens. We gave them those items in a copper chest and then broke it and didn't give them a regular chest to put it inside. So they are continually walking around looking for a chest that they'll never be able to access. But this does make it look like they are little sheep herders caring for our animals. We can do this with a lot of different items. For example, the one here is carrying a bucket so that he can milk his cow. These copper golems are carrying seeds and I believe a hoe. What you got there? Oh, yep, a copper hoe so that they can harvest the wheat field. And this one is carrying an egg, looking like he's running around trying to collect all the eggs that these chickens lay. So, just by giving them an item that matches their circumstance, we can bring a little whimsy to our builds. It doesn't have to be all fields and fences. These little guys are fishing. So, one little copper golem is in a boat fishing, his friend is on the pier. They're probably telling each other about that big one that got away. This little guy, oh, is so sad. He has found diamonds, but alas, all he has is a copper pickaxe. Poor friend. This little friend is serving soup at a cafe. Now, I had trouble with this guy. He wanted to jump out the window, to climb up on top of the tables. So I've used the trick, of course, of putting honey blocks under the carpet. So now he is stuck along this pathway. So you can force a pathway by putting honey under carpet, and he'll have to stay along that route. Same thing with this guy. You can barely see him as our little check-in clerk at our desk. Maybe this is a law office and he's getting you to sign in at the front desk, but he has honey blocks under his feet. So you can actually barely see him because he is so tiny, but he does work behind the desk there. All of these copper golems just standing around holding their items don't do anything functional, but they bring a little fun to our builds, just bringing a little bit of movement and whimsy and storytelling in the situations in which you have placed them. Next, we're going to use the functional part of the copper golem, not for the function, but for the movement. So as you can see, you can make a copper golem work forever by placing the copper chest here, a regular chest above it with a hopper leading into the copper chest. This way, when they take an item out of the copper chest, they'll put it in the regular chest and it will drain right back in, making an endless work loop for this poor little guy who is continually doing his job, but having to do it over and over again. Now, you can take advantage of this by making longer chains of hoppers and spreading out the distance between the copper chest and the regular chest so that the copper golem has to walk from one to the other. That also includes a vertical version. So you could have the regular chest on top and the items drain down so that your copper golem has to climb up and down as well to place those items. We have several variations here of how you can make the copper golem walk around and move items from one chest to another. Now, these carpets are not covering honey this time. They're actually covering magma so that the copper golem will stay in its zone. They are damaged by magma, so they will not cross these pathways most of the time unless they're entity pushed or something. So you can control the zones of where they stay inside by placing down some magma. Let's see some examples of this in action, where the copper golem is just continually taking an item from one chest into another on an endless loop. So this little guy is shoveling snow. Did you see him? He's going to grab his copper shovel and go up to the top of the mountain and shovel the snow and then come back down again. So there is a copper chest hidden down here in the snow, and the regular chest is hidden on top. So he is continually mountain climbing and trying to take down this snowy peak. On this side, our little copper golem is looking for a compass, and he's trying to find his way through a maze. Oh, and he finally finds the end. So you can see this maze from above. His little hedge maze that he looks for a compass to find his way to the end. This is just a tiny proof of concept, but you can imagine making a giant maze where the the copper golem had to pathfind to the chest far away. And this just has that long line of hoppers leading from one chest to the other. Down here, we have a little soup shop. And you can see the empty bowls here where you get your bowl and he will fill up your bowl, take your order, and give you your order on the other side. So he is continually grabbing soup bowl or, well, he has a book. He should have a soup bowl. He should be grabbing a soup bowl, but maybe this is recipe book. He is looking at the recipe. There you go. And he is making your soup in the little soup shop. And finally, on this side, this poor guy is continually washing dishes. So he is grabbing a music disc to just imitate a dish, a plate. And he is washing them and putting them back in the cabinet. So continually in the kitchen as our little dishwasher. All of these examples are very simple. They just require a few materials to connect the chest together with hoppers and get those little golems to work or pretend to work and bring some movement into your builds. If we add a dropper to our setup, we can change the orientation of these chests a little bit. The dropper is the item here with the smiley face, and that will allow you to shoot items upward rather than hoppers that can only go horizontally or downward. So whereas before our chests had to be the regular chest above and the copper chest lower, this way we can have them on the same level or even the copper chest higher. To use the dropper for our purposes, you just have to place it pointing upward. That way the items can shoot up out of this hole above it. If we put an item in our regular chest, it will flow through the hoppers into the dropper. However, it will not be able to go up into the copper chest. If we activate it though, by say like jumping on a pressure plate, the dropper can shoot it upward and put it in the copper chest. So now our golems can jump on pressure plates, activate these droppers, and can put the items in a chest above them rather than just equal or below. These poor little guys are trapped in a dungeon. And so they are continually working to pass the time, or maybe they're on work duty here. But there's a chest underneath this divider and a hopper line that takes it to the copper chest. There's a dropper underneath the copper chest. And as they step on that pressure plate, the item is put back upward into the copper chest so they can keep going back and forth with their items. Again, we use some magma here to keep them on each side of their dungeon here. This little fella is working in a flower shop, a little flower selling stall. And so they are grabbing flowers and putting them into the chest. We did put an extra copper chest over here with nothing in it, not connected to hoppers, so that the little golem will walk around more than just standing here in front. So that's a way to increase the movement range, is to only connect the hoppers in one area, but have copper chests or regular chests in other areas to give them other places to travel to. Now, what if we wanted the system to be more compact? For example, we wanted the chests right next to each other, or maybe with just one space in between. The copper golems typically use the path of least resistance. So if they could jump up here and reach both chests from one block, they won't get off this pressure plate. The same for this instance. Once they've found a spot that they can just move the items back and forth, they won't move. You have to go on and off again of the pressure plate in order to activate those droppers. Therefore, this cycle would not be able to continue. The items would just build up in the droppers. We could do a tiny bit of redstone using the calibrated skulk sensor in order to make this work without pressure plates. So follow along. It's very easy. Okay, pause. If you know how to do redstone, you probably want to leave right now because you're going to be appalled at my redstone skills. I'm still learning. I only know the very tiny basics of redstone. but with some tutorials and some just organic experimentation. I've used a few tricks to help with the Copper Golem fun movements around the world. So if you know how to do redstone, you probably don't want to watch this. However, if you don't understand redstone at all, or you're a beginner like me, I promise it's only a tiny little bit of baby redstone that gives us some more options in how we can use our copper golems for fun. First, you put down a lectern with a book, and the book needs to have 15 pages. So this book has 15 pages, which equals full signal strength, and we're going to leave it on page 10. Now, for the calibrated skulk sensor, page 10 is related to the sound of opening a chest. Next, we'll put a comparator to read that signal strength of 10, put it through a block into our calibrated skulk sensor. Now, this needs to have the purple crystal side facing the comparator to receive that signal. Then another block and another comparator. This comparator is going to be connected with redstone to our dropper so that when we hear a chest open, the signal strength of 10 reaches the calibrated skulk sensor, activating that redstone line and powering our dropper. We also can waterlog this calibrated sensor. That way you won't hear it every time that it activates. That's why we put these blocks around it to hold the water in. If you didn't care about the noise, you could leave these blocks out and make this a little more compact. Now, the calibrated skulk sensor has an activation distance of 16 blocks. So we aren't opening these copper chests, but you can see the line keeps activating because the copper golems farther over there and even on this side are opening chests. Oh, even in our dungeon, you saw that blue light there. They're all activating this same calibrated skulk sensor. So just be aware of the distance if you're putting more than one in an area, more than one copper golem. That could be to your advantage if you want one to activate multiple chest lines, or it could work to your disadvantage if it's continually being activated. Let's take a look at this in action. Here are two chests with a copper golem in the middle, and he looks like a little librarian at the front desk, taking the books and checking them in, just continually in a loop. And that is activated by the calibrated skulk sensor. So we can go behind. I left the redstone exposed. Here's our lectern, comparator, calibrated skulk sensor, comparator, and then just a little redstone line to reach to that dropper. So this little guy is just going to work hard in the library forever. On this side, we have a cozy little tavern or restaurant, and our copper golem is our waiter. So he's going to come over to the kitchen on this side where all our brew stands are and collect a drink, and then carry it over to our seating area on the other side where we have a little chair and a table, and deliver those drinks to our customers. I've seen some really good videos where copper golems were used to open a door, like security guards, and they would have to be given the correct item in order for the door to open. Now, this involves some complicated redstone with item filters and such that I have not learned how to do yet. So we're going to do the very simple, any item works to open the door version of this. In this super simplistic version, all the copper golem has to do is step on the pressure plate in order for that door to open. We can use our knowledge of their pathfinding to put this near the regular chest. That way, they will only pathfind over in this area once they have an item from the copper chest to bring over. Let's step into my vault. As you can see looking around, there's no entrance except this iron door with no button. So we'll have to ask permission to enter, or rather, we can bribe the guard. It doesn't matter what we put in because we don't have any item filters. We could put a stick in. He's going to take the item out and walk off and open the door for us. And therefore, we can enter the vault where our other golems are hard at work putting away all of our emeralds. Now, how does this work? There is a chest with a pressure plate over here out of sight. So this keeps the golem from walking over it all the time. Sometimes they will occasionally pathfind over there. But another trick is to put another copper chest with nothing in it, not attached to anything, nearby in the opposite direction. So this will keep the little guy pathfinding between these two chests rather than over this direction. And then when he does find something, he'll walk on top of that pressure plate, which is connected directly to the door so that it'll open. Behind this wall, we've got a trap door where our chest drains into a hopper underneath and another chest so that we can always collect whatever bribes we've been given. These guys are just holding emeralds. All these chests are full of something else so that they'll never be able to find a place for their emeralds. So they'll just wander around holding emeralds looking like they're busy at work. For our last idea, take a look at this building at night. Notice the lights turning on and off again in random patterns. This is all powered by the Copper Golem. If we take a look behind the scenes, we'll see two Copper Golems working hard, or hardly working, as they're just doing that same task over and over again. We're using the same technique of having a chest connected to a hopper line down to a copper chest. And that way, the Copper Golem just cycles the items in an endless loop. There are pressure plates in front of both chests, and those are hooked to the redstone lines that turn our lights on and off again. Some lights are never on, some are permanently on, and then some are randomized with the redstone. And this gives us that variety and that random pattern of lights turning off and on again. We've got it on the other side here too, where we divided the house in half so that the Copper Golems would not interfere with each other's work. For another bit of fun, we could connect this to a note block with a mob head on top so that every time the Copper Golem hits the pressure plate, we get some creepy sounds, turning this into a haunted house of sorts. This is a fairly simple concept, but you could expand it on a larger scale. Imagine the lights coming on and off again in a whole skyscraper or a whole city landscape. By changing the number of Copper Golems and the distance between the chests, you could really alter the speed at which these lights turn on and off again to fit your needs. Well, what did you think? I hope these builds inspired you to be creative with the Copper Golems and use them to inspire life and movement and whimsy everywhere they roam. Good Lord willing and the sun still shines, I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you kindly for watching and bless your heart.